All right, everybody. It's Doug again, welcoming our regional sales manager, Mahala. Mahala is in charge of all of the sales across BC to all of our private liquor store partners, restaurant partners, grocery stores, you name it. If you find a bottle outside of the winery, chances are it's passed through her hands. Welcome, Mahala.
Hi, everybody.
So Mahala, maybe give us a little bit of a background of how you started with the company and how you kind of grew into your position and kind of what your day-to-day focus looks like right now.
Sure, yeah. So I started this April, actually coming up, I think on the 17th, makes 4 years with Northern Lights. So
Nice.
pretty
Congratulations.
exciting. Yeah, hitting the anniversary part there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do come from a hospitality and sales background. So wine is obviously kind of just an easy slide in, no-brainer for me. Basically, I kind of started in the wine shop, sort of right. I mean, my first day was a parking lot attendant. So it's been a while, but from there I went to the wine club and I became the wine club coordinator, which was a lot of fun and absolutely loved that job. But now, like Doug said, I am the regional sales manager. And I also really love this job. It's fantastic. It's a great career. But my day-to-day currently right now, other than making sure my hair looks good on Zoom calls in a barberless world, would definitely be just customer relations, right? It's all about that management right now, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of funny because probably your normal day before this would have been kind of traveling around, meeting all of your customers, talking with the different sales reps, moving product from warehouse to warehouse, working on the marketing. And now it's kind of like everything is done virtually. You're really working from home. How has that transition been for you? And what have you kind of found that's been maybe most interesting or something that's different than what you expected?
Sure, yeah. I mean, like you mentioned there, traveling around was a big part of my job. I do travel the province throughout the whole year. So, and I'm definitely a handshake salesman. So there's been a big difference there. Working from home is challenging to stay productive. And given the kind of current situation, it's hard to stay focused on the future because there is a point where this will end. And so I think that that's really important to stay future focused and also on your marketing and your strategy. So whatever plans you did have, although they're sort of augmented for today's reality, they still exist and you still need to kind of push forward with those plans. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
really about like reinventing your approach and just kind of working on the current conversation and keeping yourself sort of up to date with that, I think. And just making sure you don't slide with your time management, which is very easy to do when you wear pajamas all day. So
Hey, there's nothing wrong with pajamas. They're more
that's right.
comfortable anyway. So,
Yeah.
one of the things we talked about in a previous video with Seth on the marketing side is that kind of the way that we have to approach this is a little bit different because obviously it's a different social world out there right now with COVID. We want to be empathetic to the fact that, a lot of people are in difficult situations. A lot of people are out of work right now. A lot of people maybe aren't out of work, but they don't have daycare. If they're a first responder or a healthcare person, there's a lot of stress going on there. So what are ways that you're trying to approach your position knowing that, hey, yes, I am wanting to sell you something, but I also know that we have to do this in a responsible manner for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I think on those points is just like absolutely kind of pushing just consumption in sort of a reasonable rate that like,
Mm-hmm.
just because you're off or whatever, or times are stressful, it's
Mm-hmm.
not really the time to double down on liquor. I think now is the time to kind of focus on your brand in perhaps another way. Right now we have the largest audience. I mean, it's unprecedented how many eyes are on you. So this is a fantastic time, I think, for any brand to kind of go back to their mission, go back to what they
Mm-hmm.
think they stand for, and you're really able to kind of push that to consumers in another way. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily about selling them a product, but it is really about conveying the brand and perhaps selling them on your vision. So, the ways that you align with your consumers, this is a great time to kind of reiterate those points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really interesting. I heard someone say this the other day, and I actually think it's very accurate. Is right now, you're either selling an essential or you're selling a treat, right? There's nothing really in between, and so obviously although liquor is considered an essential service in lots of these provinces, we're not really essential. We really are kind of a treat. So we're trying to make your day a little bit better in a responsible way. I think that's really neat. You
Well, and
mentioned
I
that there's
think
a
to the essential point, one thing that is essential is staying positive and having a great time still.
absolutely, yeah.
And there's nothing like a bottle of wine that really can help that, whether it's over Zoom or, maybe over the fence with your neighbor, just having a glass, practicing those social distancing, right? But I still think that in that sense, it is essential to still have a great time.
Absolutely, yeah. Tim the Toolman Taylor taught us all about social distancing and hanging out with your
Exactly.
neighbor there years ago. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's still going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, one of the things you just said there was that there's a lot more eyes on you right now. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what are the changes you're seeing and how people are viewing our brand and other brands?
Well, definitely from like a consumer perspective. I mean, obviously, we all know we're on social media a lot more these days because
Hmm.
we do have a little more idle time. Where you may be out socializing, you're now kind of holding some sort of device to do so. So obviously, scrolling has increased.
Hmm.
And I think that people are now a great way to connect to people is people are often looking at the same messages. So we're all looking to, what can we do during quarantine or great ways to stay connected with friends. So I think
Hmm.
that that really helps from a marketing side where you can kind of affect what your viewers see. So if they're looking at quarantine, for example, we have those quarantine packages. I think that that's
Hmm.
great for us and it's great for the brand because it really helps display something that is on everyone's mind immediately.
Hmm.
And from maybe a client perspective, I do think that they're viewing your brand a little bit differently and they're viewing your relationship a little bit differently.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, if you were providing some advice to maybe other sales reps that are out there that are kind of struggling right now, obviously, it doesn't matter what industry you're trying to sell car, you're trying to sell radio ads, you're trying to sell wine, you're trying to, outside of maybe selling the N95 mask, there's probably not a lot of things out there that are as easy to sell right now. What kind of things would you tell them to focus on right now? I mean, understanding that your sales are not going to be where they would traditionally be.
Yeah, I think that some things to focus on again, like I would bring it back to stay future focused. Like you do still
Hmm.
have that strategy. This will be over at some point. So, staying focused on what you're after. And then also maybe on the silver linings of what's happening right now. So, personally, I
Hmm.
find that I get to learn a lot about my core demographic. And that's something that I didn't really anticipate through COVID and all of this sort of happening is just how much information you get from almost the lack of purchase or the switch of purchase, right? And
Right.
I think that there's lots of information you can take in right now. And then, making sure you take care of yourself. So sales
Hmm.
is definitely something that eats a lot at your soul. You have to have a big soul bucket to do it. And generally speaking, most of us are extroverts. So you are spending a lot more time alone than you normally would. So it's just about kind of, checking in with yourself and making sure that you're like mentally there and just kind of keeping that good fight going. Stay
Yeah,
strong.
absolutely. That's a really good point. Is there some things that you're doing that kind of are helping you with that, or to try and stay at least, uh, to try and understand where you are and when you need help and where to get it and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, much like everyone else in the world right now, we're all using Zoom and we're all using these kind of FaceTime platforms to be able to see one another. But something that I've really taken on is kind of almost like an internal hashtag was, what did you do during COVID? So, I mean, I've taken up the guitar a little bit harder. My yoga is definitely improving. I'm getting wild good at it. So things like that, I think is, again, still checking in with yourself and kind of reevaluating your core ideals. And for me personally, I really love thinking about where do I want my career to go? Like how do I want to push these sales into another outer sphere? How do I want to keep that train moving? And I'm definitely a business person. I love thinking about business, reading about it, anything to do with sales. So that really helps keep me grounded. And I have a cat, so that's always, she's always good.
Yeah, cat will always put you in your place there for sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, she will.
they know
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen post COVID? Like, how do you think that the landscape is going to change for maybe for sales for us, but also for kind of sales in general? Is there like differences you think are going to kind of come forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, right off the hop, I can't predict the future. And I do think that there's going to be a lot of unforeseen things that come out of this. But do like thinking about it from our perspective, generally we're a lot on the phone because we deal with a lot of northern communities and sort of kind of your outlying communities with our product being the most northern winery in BC. And I found that we've been communicating a little bit more through email than we did traditionally on the phone because the managers are a bit busier at this point. And so email is kind of working for them, where traditionally they're all kind of like, pick up the phone, how you doing, man? I think that they are kind of transitioning to that right now. So I think it's just about kind of staying open and current with what your clients need. So, you know, where maybe you were traditionally on the phone, you have to focus on these other platforms now. And I mean, I do have one client that has asked me to guide her through Zoom at this point. So, you know, it's just about like offering those things that, you know, maybe are outside of the scope of what you sell, but it really does help your client. And anytime you can help them, that helps you. Anytime you can grow that relationship.
That's really neat. So you're actually working with your clients to help them on things that have nothing to do with the business, and in that you're just developing that relationship for the future. That's incredibly powerful. I think that's something that that I hadn't personally thought about. Is there other ways that maybe, like, in general, how would you get onto that type of relationship footing with you know, some you've been working with for a couple of years, but maybe you haven't had that type of relationship? How would you kind of get in there?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have all those, you know, like all of us have those clients where like we would consider some of them to be almost our friends. And then, you know, you move to some that are all about the business. But for me personally, it's just about remembering all the small details about what's going on in their life. Because it's easy when you're self-isolating to be pretty self-centered in the sense that only your world is happening. But in all actual fact, I mean, they're isolating in their communities as well, right? And I think that's actually kind of great for us because it gives us a common thread. It doesn't matter what your relationship was. Today, you're all on the same page. And I think that that really helps talking about that and kind of pushing that forward. So it's ways that you can be there for them, even if it's just a simple, I mean, we have some tasters up in Fort St. John, and I've had a personal conversation with her on the phone just because she was having, you know, like, you need to talk to somebody. So it is nice to kind of do that. And I've had our other taster in Fort St. John reach out to me and just say, hey, if you ever need to talk. So I think with your clients, you just kind of need to offer them that personal touch because you don't have that handshake right now. So you just really need to stay focused on kind of what you can do for them from a technology basis and just kind of always touching base. So I've called my clients a lot more frequently than I have before. And there's a lot of learning that you get out of that as well.
Yeah. So is that something you think you're going to continue doing after this, or?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that this is, to your point, really changing the landscape of how you will sell. I mean, I can't speak to all products, but I know wine in particular, we always talk about in the shop that there's a definite large online component that will happen as, you know, we sort of progress to the future. And I think that this is just more prevalent of that. I think companies will want to work in a faster, kind of more efficient way, regardless if they hadn't before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, during this time, obviously, restaurants have been closed by and large, with a little bit of takeout now. Liquor primaries are allowed to sell wine with their food or beer with their food to ship out or take out. Are you finding, what are you finding from our customers? What's the differences between kind of some of the customers' needs now from a product perspective?
Yeah, from like a hospitality sector, obviously it has slowed down because without looking at that menu and kind of reading the tasting notes, it can be quite difficult. So I find that consumers kind of go to what they know. Also, you don't have like the opportunity to send that glass back if it's not for you. So, you know, you kind of be sure of what you're purchasing. So I think right now is a great time with those clients to just try to reaffirm your brand in their location. So it's about kind of just, you know, ours is a go-to product, and you want to make sure that you're really giving them the tried and true. From a restaurant perspective, this perhaps isn't the time to sell a lot of seasonal. Right now, you want to sell them what's going to sell for them because they're really looking at their bottom line, right? And so they're paying their skeleton crew to help stay open, to maybe be on skip or do their in-town deliveries. So at that point, you want to definitely give them something that's going to move, is not a dust bottle or something that's niche. You definitely want that product to move out the door, I think.
I think that's really good advice. So are you trying to keep in touch with those people as well? and kind of do what you were talking about earlier, just work on things that you can work on and, until it does pick up?
Yeah, so I find actually right now I work a lot through like Facebook and Instagram. So always kind of commenting on their posts is really helpful right now. So if you see something that you like, a great shot, or awesome marketing, or wow, I want to try that beer. Something as simple as that really helps them, and it gives them a boost from their social media platform, which isn't again necessarily about selling our product, but it's about helping them feel better during this time. And then, some of the managers I stay in contact with, I've ordered all of our local beer to our door, as much as I can bring in, just because I want them to know that I support them just the same. And I do feel that, as sort of brewers, we're kind of all in this together. And that makes up a large part of our hospitality. But then when it comes to just like your standard kind of restaurants, I think, again, it's just kind of touching base with them and really kind of clicking into their social media, making sure you follow everyone, just so
Yeah.
you can stay current with what message they're trying to convey. Because you never know, there might be an outside of the box way that you can help them. Maybe there's, a partnership that, you never thought of before, but now makes a lot more sense during these times.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you expect to see when people are finally let out and we're free again to meet up and have friends and go for dinner? Do you think that there's going to be a kind of like a spike, or do you think it's going to take a while to kind of climb back into where we were before?
Yeah, I mean, from us personally, obviously, or any salesman out there, I really hope that your game gets strong again and you guys are all back on top, because that's what we want. But I do think, being that we are local, we are going to see a surge in that. I do think people's focus will shift now to more of a local sense. I think it was already heading in that trend, but I think now it's really going to be like that. And the fact that we've had so much social distancing, I think things like campfires are going to be really important for people, and get together dinners. And, I think even wine tasting is going to increase,
Hmm.
because people are just going to want a reason to get together.
Yeah, absolutely. They're gonna miss it, and as long as they feel safe and secure and protected from whatever is out there at the time, because this is probably going to take for a little while. It's really
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really interesting there, Mahala. Is there anything else you can think of that you think might be interesting to people who are looking or who are watching this right now? Maybe any sales people out there that have questions. How can they get in touch with you? Is there any thoughts that you have at the end of this?
Yeah, definitely. So my contact is all on our webpage. So head over to northernlightswinery.ca, grab a bottle maybe, but definitely hit me up for any questions you may have. But I do kind of want to thank, obviously, we have all of our medical staff, right down from the janitors to the doctors. But I really do kind of want to give a special shout out to our liquor store workers. I mean,
Hmm.
they really are on the front line too, and they've been considered essential. And I don't know that they get enough mention, because people just kind of take it for granted a little bit. But I mean, all of our clients now are putting up sneeze guards, and that alone should tell you kind of the danger that they're in, just to
Hmm.
kind of sell you a bottle of wine, right? So I want to like really say, like, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. We all do. We all need our liquor. So and just to all the sales reps out there, no matter what you're selling, just really trying to stay future focused, re-examining your brand and what your core demographic looks like, what they really want to see from you right now.
Absolutely. I think your message is great. Thank you so much, Mahala. There, just remembering that everything is on the up and up and positive. Your positivity is infectious and fantastic. I really
Good.
appreciate everything you do for us. And for everyone out there, just remember that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It is coming soon, hopefully. And regardless of where you are, if you can't necessarily make a sale, there are other things you can do to build the relationship, and that's just going to build your brand. It's going to build your sales techniques and then what's going to happen going forward from this is all going to be positive. So thank you so much again, Mahala, and you
Thank you,
guys
Doug.
have a great night.